This is question number 7 on QZ4 for chapter 4. So this firm currently has $2,163,000 in current assets and $869,000 in current liabilities. The company's managers want to increase the firm's inventory, which will be financed by a short-term note with the bank. What level of inventories can the firm carry without its current ratio falling below 2.1? So it's better to sort of write down some the sort of like balance sheet, right? We know, and to understand the mechanisms for this question. So we know that on the left-hand side of the balance sheet, there's current asset, then there's fixed asset, right? Net fixed asset, and then their sum becomes the total asset, right? And then on the right-hand side of the balance sheet, there's liabilities, all right, and liabilities. We further has current liabilities, and we have the long-term liabilities, and then we have the total equity, right, owner's equity, and their sum becomes liabilities plus equity, and we know that balance sheet must be balanced. So basically, the question here is the setup here is that um, we know the current assets and we know the current liabilities. And our goal is to make the current ratio not fall below 2.1. So, but if you look at the answer, the blank here is actually asking for a specific amount of the inventory which meets this requirement. So basically, that suggests to us that we can just equate the current ratio to be this 2.1. So if I write down what this means, we can say that because current ratio is defined to be current asset divided by current liabilities, and then we want to alter some items within this current assets and also some items are within this current liabilities to make this to be 2.1, right? So that's the goal. So that's the equation we can write down based on the setup here, 2.1. So now let's go deeper uh, than just current assets because we know that current assets further has some components, right? It could have cash, it could have accounts receivable, right? And it could have inventory, right? And the current liabilities also, it has different components. It could be accounts payable and could be a short-term note, right? Or notes payable. And I could also have other stuff, other current liabilities. And then when we link this structure of the current assets and current liabilities back to the setup here, it's basically saying that the firm wants to increase the inventory. So the inventory here will increase, right? We alter this inventory here. So why don't I use a different color? So this is not very beautiful. So this is, so let me use the red pen to denote the change. And then at the same time, because if we increase the inventory, remember the balance sheet needs to be balanced at all time, right? So then we have to ask what can we use to finance this increase in inventory? Because the right-hand side of the balance sheet is simply telling us where does the money come from, right, to finance the assets on the left-hand side of the balance sheet. So in this case, it's actually telling us that the bank, the firm wants to borrow short-term note from the bank. So basically, what will increase is this short-term note here. So because short-term note is part of the current liabilities and inventory is part of the current assets, so both the current assets and the current liabilities will increase. Actually, they will increase by the same amount because, again, that's going back to the balance sheet identity, right? The left-hand side of the balance sheet has to be equal to the right-hand side of the balance sheet at all time. In this case, only the inventory and the short-term note changes. So this two has to increase by the same amount. So with that knowledge, now we can sort of going back to this setup. So current assets, initially we know this is, so it's going back this 2 million, right? 2 million and 163,000. And the current liabilities here is 869,000. So, and then we want to increase the inventory, hence increase the current assets. So let's say the inventory we want to increase is X. X is some unknown amount. And at the same time, if we increase the inventory by X, then as we just discussed, the current liabilities will also increase by X. Right? So basically, the numerator will be 2,163,000 plus X, and the denominator will become 869,000 plus X. And the ratio between these two will become 2.1. So that's basically the equation based on the setup. So now I can just put it in a cleaner way. Well, 2,163,000 plus X, and that divided by 869,000 and plus X, and this equals 2.1. So the rest of the job is simply to solve out this. Basically, this is one unknown, right? And this is one equation. So we can, and it's basically it can be converted into a linear equation. So we can solve out this X, and that's the final answer for this. So how can we solve out this X? And the denominator here has X. So why don't we multiply both sides by the denominator? So when we divide left-hand side, then becomes just the numerator, right? So the left-hand side becomes 2,163,000 plus X and equals, now right-hand side needs to multiply by this denominator 869,000 plus X. And then we can just, the right-hand side can further be written as, if we use the sort of the, open a new sheet as my calculator. So this equals 2.1 times, right, times 869,000, right, 869,000. So this becomes 1,824,900. So this is, why don't I just type? Maybe type it, make it easier. So 1,824 and 900. And then this plus 2.1 times X, right? That's the right-hand side. So, and then we can just combine the terms. Basically move this X to the right-hand side and move this 1,824,900 to the left-hand side. And so the right-hand side now becomes 2.1 times X minus X. So if you combine the terms, that will become the 2.1 minus 1, right? Minus 1. Combine the terms on X, and then times X. And if I switch sides, because generally we want the unknown to be on the left-hand side. So then the right-hand side, which is basically after I move this 1,824,900 to the left-hand side, and that will becomes 2,163,000 minus 1,824,900. Right, so, and then finally we can, after we combine the terms, 2.1 minus 1, that equals 1.1, right? And then times X, and this equals this equals 2 163,000 minus this becomes 338,100. 338,100. So eventually x will equal to 338,100 divided by 1.1. So, and then we just need to, and this equals this divided by 1.1. And then we just need to pay attention to the rounding requirement. This is round to the nearest dollar. So we can just format cells, and make this to be keep 0 decimal places, and then copy this number back. So this is, and now I can check my answer. Correct. So there's another way to get the same answer as I will show you. We can use Excel actually to directly figure out the answer. To use Excel, I can just first write down the current assets amount. We know that that's going to be one, going back to the setup, it's actually 2, right? 163,000. And then that's the current assets, and current liabilities. Initial current liabilities is 869,000. And then I can further write down the inventory. The increase in inventory actually, the increase in inventory. So let me just write down any random number. I will explain what later. And then, as we just discussed, balance sheet has to be balanced at all times. So if you increase inventory by this, and then because it's financed by short-term debt, so the increase in short-term debt will be the same amount, regardless of how much this is, right? Obviously, I just write down any random number here, so this obviously may not be the correct final answer, but I'm just, I will explain how we can actually use this information to figure out the final answer. So, and this is the, let me just put this as the original to differentiate between from the new, right? This is the original, and same thing for the current liabilities. Okay, so the new current asset will be the original plus, right, plus this increase in inventory. So obviously this may not be the correct answer as I explained, because this is just I put down any random number there, and the new CL will be equal to original and then plus this new. But you can notice that other than this assumed any random number, all other information is definitive. What I mean by definitive is that once I know this number, all these numbers are correct. So that's key. So the only thing which I have to worry about is this increase in inventory. So that's similar to this X here. So basically I'm just using Excel to solve out this equation, but you can see that this could be done very easily in Excel. So now the current ratio, right, could be calculated based on this new CA, new current assets, divided by the new current liabilities. So now you can see that this is obviously not equal to our target, right? Because the target is 2.1. Right now, by assuming any random inventory level, actually I'm making this ratio to be 2.45, right? So it's not obviously not the correct answer, but there's one function in Excel that can help me to figure out this answer. The function is within this data tab. Click on data, and this and then what if analysis, and this goal seek, and this is the golden function I'm gonna use to figure out this answer. So you can see that this automatically puts this cell number B10. This is what I'm looking for actually, because before I open this goal seek window, my mouse was pointed to this B10. So that's the default. So I want to set this to be the target, right? This 2.1, because that's the target. I'm trying to make the current ratio to be 2.1. And then you can see that the third row here is by changing cell. So this is the unknown, which I can adjust, that will eventually make the target, which is the current ratio, to reach the 2.1, the target level. So now obviously the cell I want to adjust is just this increase in inventory, right? That's like the X in this equation here. So and now let's go back to this. And once I click OK, you can see these numbers will adjust. And it's adjusting until this increase in inventory will make this current ratio to be our target. So that's, you see this final answer here is, let's compare this. Again, I want to keep this to be, to round to more 0 decimal place, right? To the round to the nearest dollar. But you can just compare this number with the answer we just got. 307,364, 307,364, 324. Actually, that's I guess the reason is because there is some. So after doing some research, I guess the issue is with respect to the precision set in Excel. So what we can do is to change this precision level to make the number more accurate. So how do we change the precision level? By clicking File, and then there's the options here with in More. And options, under options, we want to use work on the formulas. Click on formulas on the right, on the left, and the calculation options here. We want to change the maximum change. So I guess this is because sometimes many times the Excel, the way the Excel works is to use the try and error. So and then this in other words, it's using the iterations to figure until it converges to the true value. So this maximum change is telling Excel what should be the change of the value relative to its last try. So we can make this to be a very, very small number. So right now it's 0.001. So it's, even though it's small, but it's not that small. In this case, when we encounter some number which is relatively large, that can generate some errors. So what we can do is to make this number to be really, 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 really small. Yeah, you can change this. So let's try that. And let's see whether this can help us to get a better number. So I guess we can go back to this and use GoSeek again and set this to be 2.1, and by changing the cell value again. So and then I think now it's working much better, and you can see that 307,364, right, which is actually what we found here. So by changing the precision of the Excel for its calculations, we can actually make this to be closer to the true value of this problem. So I just want to add this note.